You know what? I think today's the day we show that pole saw who's boss. But first, we plow. Okay guys, welcome to the channel. As you can see this morning, we've had quite a bit more snow here in southeastern Ontario. This winter just continues to keep going on. Anyways, let's get at what we're actually going to do today, and that is tackle that pole saw. For those of you who haven't seen my last pole saw video, which was I think 2 episodes ago, I'll put the link up here for it. I got hurt. A limb hit me on the top of the head. Check that video out, you'll understand everything. But I've learned a lot since then. I've had a lot of people reach out with comments, and so we're going to grab that pole saw and we're going to finally get some of these limbs trimmed off the trees that are dangerous, that are just kind of hanging there and dead. So I'll grab the saw and then we'll go from there. So stick around, let's see what we get into. Okay guys, so as with last time, I'll just basically go over this saw quickly for anybody that didn't see that last video. So this is the Husqvarna 525 PT5S. It's a professional pole trimming saw. It has about a 12-inch bar on the end, oilers at the end. Thing runs really well, but we had some incident when I was cutting those last limbs. I was just cutting straight through from the top. What I have learned is this: when you're trimming one of these branches, 2 things to keep in mind. First of all, if you can take some of the weight off the branch by starting out farther out the branch and cutting off pieces, great idea. But when you're actually doing a full limb trim, if you can't do that and you're trimming near the actual base or trunk of the tree, what you want to do is cut from the bottom first, out from the trunk of the tree. Cut about 1/4 of the way through from the bottom as a relief cut. Then you take your saw on top, move in closer to the tree trunk and trim from the top, and that will actually fall basically just like when you're cutting a normal tree with a normal chainsaw. So we're gonna give that a shot today, because obviously, as I said in that last video, you know, these things can be very dangerous. But leaving those branches up in the trees can also be incredibly dangerous. They're breaking off all the time with this heavy snow and ice, and you don't want one of them to hit you in the head. Trust me on that one. So before we get going, I've got the saw. We're gonna get it warmed up. But as I always say, safety equipment, safety first. I'm gonna put that helmet back on, get my cage down. I always wear my sunglasses because I do have a bit of sensitivity to light, regardless of my injury, but even more so sense a little bit. So we're gonna do all that. I always wear gloves. I do not wear chaps when I'm using the pole saw. Basically the reason is, if I do need to back up quickly, run away, whatever, I'm not getting tangled up in the chaps as well. But I do always wear them when I'm running a regular chainsaw on the ground. So let's try this out. And as I've said before, this thing, it runs great because that's first pull, and this hasn't ran since the day that I had that injury. So I think we're ready to go almost. Just got to get my safety gear on. All right, so my safety equipment's on. We're all set to go. And I'm just going to extend the pole again. This is a great saw because it extends just by twisting this locking nut, sliding out the pole, and locking it where you want it. All right guys, safety equipment's on. Here we go. We're gonna do our first cut on this limb here. It's close to the ground, easy one to practice on. It's a big limb, so I'm gonna do a couple things. I'm gonna take some weight off the end of it just to practice. Then I'm gonna do that relief cut and the top cut, and we'll see how it falls. All right, so here goes the relief cut. Then once you get the majority of the limb down, you can just trim it up nice and neat right at the trunk. So as you can see, it works quite well. The only issue I ever have with this saw is I've only made a few cuts with it. The chain might be a tiny bit dull, I'm not sure, but you need to keep the RPMs cranked on this saw, because if not, it will bind and grab into that wood. So I am going to get the chain sharpened just to double check and see if that helps. But as you notice, if I come off the throttle even a tiny bit, it wants to bind in that branch and it doesn't want to spin. So I need to lift it back up, get the RPMs up, and then drop it down. Okay guys, you can see this large branch up here. It's actually broke through and cracked part of the way out. So incredibly dangerous. And we need to make sure we get that on the ground, because we are, hopefully, in the very, very near future, going to be in here working on the septic bed. We don't want that breaking off and hitting somebody in the head. So again, we're going to be extra cautious, mainly because of the fact that it's already broke. And we want to get it on the ground safely. You can see that when I'm starting this saw, obviously I don't want to put that blade, that chain in the ground or in the snow, so I just sit it on a tree stump to hold the end while I start the saw. So you can see, if you're actually doing it in a systematic way, you know, planning your escape route, all that stuff before you even get to the tree, wearing your safety equipment, cutting that relief cut from the bottom, and then cutting it off from the top, the limb falls actually where it should instead of swinging free, and like it did for me, swinging down onto the ground, pivoting and hitting me in the head. So I'm just going to keep cutting a few of these, and we'll see what's next. All right, so we're gonna do this one next. This big one right here, because it actually sits right over where I park the tractor all the time. So again, I'm just basically doing a survey of the lot, walking around where we are most of the time, and checking for these dead limbs that look like they could cause a problem. Okay guys, so the way I see it, the score's tied. Pole saw won, me won. Listen, I make fun of it, but it could have been a really bad incident. So I just reiterate all the time, wearing safety equipment and following those steps. Finding what you need to cut, planning your escape route, wearing your safety equipment, making sure that your equipment is in good working order, making sure you're following the cutting order of maybe removing some of the weight off the limb farther out, using that bottom relief cut on anything that's big, cut from the top closer to the branch, and let it fall in place. So it does work. The saw works well. Again, it starts incredibly well, runs like very smoothly. The only complaint I have about it really is possibly that chain's a little dull. I can't imagine it because I've hardly cut anything with it, but it could be that. But also making sure you're keeping those RPMs up incredibly high as you drop the chain down onto the branch to cut. So that's today's episode. I'm going to stick around out here right now and wait for the maintenance guy from Hartington Equipment. He's coming out. I was called the other day. They're coming out to check the quality of the oil. Apparently that's something they need to do every once in a while. So they're on their way out to do that. So I'm just going to stick around and do that. And then I'm going to load the side-by-side up and go home and clean my own driveway right now. As for an update about the lot, we've had our walkthrough with the township. We met 6 individuals, engineers, planning department, building inspector, all sorts of people were out here. Did a walk around the lot, and we're hoping to have our individual site plan before council within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then from there, we're almost good to go. So we are now currently the 2nd of March, and I'm really hoping by the end of March, early April, we're going to get excavating and actually building this house. So as always, we appreciate you being here. Lisa couldn't be here today because she's doing some real estate work, but thanks very much. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, share the videos with your friends, hit that thumbs up, hit the bell so that you know when we post our next videos. And on behalf of Lisa and I, thanks for watching the channel. We'll see you on the next one.